Hey, welcome, Journey family and friends, to After the Message Conversation. Really glad to have you join us again, Pastor John, Pastor Dustin Agard. And this week we got a special guest. Yep. We got a Journey member and a friend is Cary Truley. So Cary is with us today. Cary is a native of Pittsburgh, right?
Correct.
So, well, before we get to Pittsburgh, so we got a little special shout out we want to do to Pittsburgh. Tell us a little bit about your family.
Yeah, so I've been married, my wife Diane and I, been married 19 years, it'll be 20 here soon this fall. We have 3 children, Cary Jr., McCara, and Colton.
I mentioned Cary's from Pittsburgh. So if you're from Pittsburgh or anywhere in that area, you know what I'm going to say next. Cary is a Pittsburgh Steelers fan. That's probably an understatement, right?
Black and yellow. That's all I got to say. 6 rings. That's it.
I mean, it's just like, I grew up in the state of Kentucky. I mean, you're a Kentucky Wildcat fan, just kind of born into it. Pittsburgh, you're a Pittsburgh Steelers fan.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Now, y'all have had a lot, I'm not good with NFL history, but y'all have had a lot of great teams.
Absolutely.
Was there ever a team that went the whole year undefeated?
No.
I'm trying to remember. There's not.
No, but that doesn't.
Has that happened in any team?
You know what? I think it's the Miami Dolphins.
That's right.
But
the Miami Dolphins.
But when it occurred,
yes.
I wasn't born.
Whoa!
Yeah,
wow.
yeah,
hey, neither was he.
Yeah.
I'm the only one at this table that actually remembers
there were only 4 teams in
the 1972 Miami Dolphins, and I was cheering for him that year.
Yeah. Now, not only is he from Pittsburgh, but he's also an incredible volunteer for us. Has been serving for a while now in our children's ministry. As a matter of fact, you're representing Journey Kids, and not just a volunteer, he's a coach, and which means you've proven that not only you love it, you got great leadership skills, and you help oversee other volunteers. And so just want to thank you for all that you've done. I know there's parents watching that would say the same thing. Thanks for all that you've done and continue to do to serve in Journey Kids, and we're grateful for you. So
I appreciate it. It's been a blessing. It's been the gift that keeps on giving. That's for sure.
But you not only coach in our environment, you coach in the community. Tell us a little bit about what you coach in the community.
Yeah, so I guess I would say this probably starting about 10, 12 years ago when I was just volunteering, helping around, I started really coaching. So over the years, I've coached football, basketball, and soccer has been the main thing. And then most recently basketball, and now I'm finally on a break after all those years of continuously around the clock. But it's been a beautiful thing to serve the community and to get to know the children and the parents, and many of them who are members here at the church now and actually volunteer here. So it's been a beautiful thing. Absolutely.
Professionally, tell us a little bit about your line of work. What do you do work-wise?
So I'm an engineering manager for Sprint, T-Mobile, now with T-Mobile. I got to make sure I say that properly. Mm-hmm. And I've been doing that. That's actually how I got here. I moved here to start up to build the Nextel network. Mm-hmm. If you guys remember the chirp, yeah. Yep. So that was it. So I was part of that initial build, and now I've been here doing that, and my team kind of maintains, operates, and engineers the network. And I actually had the chance of being one of the teams that went to Puerto Rico. I think I shared with you before, and was sent there to kind of restore service after Hurricane Maria. So it's been a beautiful thing. That's cool. Yeah, it's been great.
When did you come to Journey, first time to visit?
I came in 2005 after I think our daughter was probably about 8 or 9 months old, and we were transitioning from another church that was was in Orlando. And we were there, and the church just didn't seem, I could tell something was missing, right, from it. It's just sort of like Apopka, beautiful place, love it here, diverse community. But I was driving 30 minutes away to go to a location that didn't even reflect what my community looked like. The church was pretty much 90-some% Black. That's what I kind of grew up with. Seemed familiar, but then it became unfamiliar. And so, I sort of prayed about it. But it wasn't until a couple of weeks later that I brought a friend of mine to our daughter's christening, and my friend's white. And I heard something there that made me a little uncomfortable. that I thought made him uncomfortable, put it that way, right? Not intentional, but if I'm looking in my friend's shoes and I knew my friend, I probably would have felt a little uncomfortable there. He didn't say anything, but I knew. So I told my wife then, I think we're done with that. God's leading us in a different direction. We came back to Journey, and we were just sitting there talking. We were saying, man, I don't know about this music, honestly, right? And I was like,
a little different style.
I was like, I know. I was like, I really miss, the gospel. I was like, but was the message right? And we prayed about it, and we said, yes, absolutely, the message is right. We still tried one more time to other church. We were there 5 minutes and was like, we're done. And then sort of the rest is history.
So when you came to Journey, there was some diversity, but probably not a lot. So I guess I would ask you, why did you keep coming back to Journey?
Good question.
And you brought some family or some friends that, and they would ask you, what are you doing here?
Absolutely. So when we first came back, we didn't know anyone that was here. We just happened to be driving by, and when we came in, and I could the message again was right? Pastor Dan was here, and shortly thereafterwards, we were attending for a while. You're still not 100% sure you're in the right place, but just kept praying about it. And a couple months after we were here, the following, almost about 8 months or so, we met our dear friends, the Jameses, as you know, and our kids, our boys were small. And of course, they're our closest friends to us now.
My neighbors.
Your neighbors,
yeah,
absolutely.
Live down the street from me.
Absolutely. And what God really told me, put on my heart, you ever read the book, The Purpose-Driven Life? Rick Warren? Absolutely, right? So I knew God told me, and he says, look, you can't worry about the diversity that's right here. That will soon come. You need your spirit fed. You need to be focused on, you're going to be part of the group that helps diversify this church. I had no idea what God had in store for me when it came down to it. I had no idea. Like I said, met the Jameses, our other closer friends, other relationships fortified here were other closest friends, the Shaws and the Ferreras, and just the relationships have just been unbelievable. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. Now, you had to learn a lot. God, you go from predominantly all-black church, like you said, to the opposite. What was God teaching you in that step? That's a big step of faith. What did God teach you in that season?
You got to be patient and just focus on the word. The word is colorblind, right? And but we all know it's not what you say; it's necessarily what you do, right? And what was clear here is that the mission was proper, was set in the right place, right? I thought about myself. I'm coming from an all-black church, but growing up, going to predominantly white schools, but still living in predominantly black neighborhoods, it was that there's also people here that might have been Catholic, Protestant, Presbyterian, who were also making a big change, right? And if we're all here in this common place, this diverse city, the great place of Apopka, the church, the message is right, that just be patient. It's feeding your soul. You can just see the relationships growing. And then as family members came, I said, you know what, this is a place that, you're a little nervous at first, you're like, because I know you're like, well, how'd you get here, right? So, of course, we're coming in, and I'm always making sure everyone's always been so nice, been so welcoming. And it just really, I could tell that even when my family would visit, and this is the first time they had this sort of experience, always would usually leave with 3 questions when we left. What did you think? Did everybody treat you nicely? And how was the message? And I always usually get positive information. A lot of times they said, man, the music was a little off, but but I like what he said about, or I like what so-and-so said about that. So, and there was challenges that come with that. When Pastor Dan was leaving and the church was it wasn't in a good place.
Yep.
And we almost left. And but we were just praying about it. You got to be a little bit more patient. I think these elders here are really searching for the right person. And then, of course, this man shows up.
Amen.
Exactly.
So
a few years later.
So one of the things that I think we've not arrived in our diversity yet. Right. But I'll speak on my behalf, and I hear it often that Journey has a lot more diversity than a lot of people are used to. And to know that it's because people like you took it serious and said, we're gonna help pioneer something. I just want to say on behalf of everybody, thank you for making this what it is, because I love the diversity here. And to know that you were obedient to a whisper from the Lord 10, 15 years ago, and God's still doing the work. And so I just want to say thank you. And he also mentioned Purpose-Driven Life earlier, and I just want to encourage you. Purpose-Driven Life is the #1 book sold in the history of the world outside the Bible. So it's a popular book. Pastor Rick Warren, incredible book, really in a daily devotional format. But if you're somewhere seeking something more in this season, I want to encourage you, go get Purpose-Driven Life. Great book. Glad that you mentioned that. That's great.
When So I did a message on prejudice and racism back in June, and you reached out to me after that message and sent me a text and gave a lot of good words of support. But in the text, you said, hey, watch this video. And it was the video, Uncomfortable Conversations with a Black Man. And so after I watched it, I texted Cary back and I said, Cary, would you like to have an uncomfortable conversation with your white pastor? And Cary said, absolutely. And so we had already met. I mean, we met a few years ago about some things. So it wasn't the first time, but I think we were more intentional about saying, let's really talk about this. Let's really talk about your experience as a Black man in predominantly white environments. And what can I do as a white pastor, as someone that has some, a leader and some power in an organization? What can I do? And what do I need to understand? And you shared some stories, shared some things that you've been through. But I think part of what we were just talking about is just, and Dustin and I never know that, and we'll never know that. It's just your constant awareness when you go into a room, when you go someplace, how you could be perceived and how you have to you kind of carefully craft yourself. Talk just a little bit about that.
Yeah, I think sometimes, often, I've been in places, like I said, I've been very fortunate to had a pretty good, career so far, and I'm what they call a senior manager. I manage most of all the South region, which goes as far as Texas, as north as far as Tennessee, and all the way south to Puerto Rico. And I've been a national manager too. I helped deploy the 4G for Sprint. I was a national manager for that.
I love it. Give me some of that.
There you go.
Love me some 4G.
There you go. And but what happens a lot of times, used to happen even at work, is I'm talking or I'm presenting data, and then somebody finds out later on, they say, I had no idea you were Black. So, sometimes, and this happens quite often, if I'm helping with a kid somewhere or something like that, sometimes I'm perceived a little bit more to be almost like the help. And even when I was in Puerto Rico, I had a staff of over 100 people that I was responsible for. And I think they probably went to about 3 other people asking who the boss is first before someone pointed to me. And but like I said, people don't do this intentionally, is what I learned, over the years. Yeah. They just don't do it intentionally. They don't know.
And you said you've been on supervisory calls or training calls, and then you go visit that environment later on, and people have actually said to you, well, you didn't sound Black on the phone.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's the same thing that people say to you, hey, you're handsome for a Black man, or you're handsome as a pretty Black girl. Or it's just these small little things that they don't intend, and most don't intend that, right? They don't intend for it to be harmful, but pretty is pretty, handsome is handsome, smart is smart, and it's just as simple as that. But you're always having to try to take the step back, look at that person's true intentions, and then it does mean a lot. One time I was talking to my staff one day, and they were asking me this question, and it just felt my staff's pretty diverse, women, men, colored, beautiful different colors, many different colors, right? Yellow, brown, whatever you want to call it. And but for some reason, all of the Black men on my team and all our profile pictures, they all have a suit on. Somebody asked me this one day, and I said it's because that you want somebody when they see you to pause just for 1 minute to say that I might be somebody that's most important, right? Just to give you that, what I think what happens a lot, you just don't get the benefit of the doubt as an individual. Sometimes you're just, you're sort of just kind of, there's a pre-notion or there's an assumption about where you're at. And I didn't ask them to do this, right? These are all free-willing adults, right? And it just so happened to be, and including myself, in a suit and tie, And I think that's got a little bit to do with the talk that I heard you mention, that you talked about. It's one of the reasons why I reached out to you. And it's just these things you have to be self-conscious about all the time,
Full disclosure on something that happened even this week when I brought your picture up, name up, and only Mark, our video director, knows this. So initially, I was going to say Cary Truley, a black member of Journey Church, and I just got to be honest with you, Cary. The more I thought about that, I thought I wouldn't say Dustin Agard, a white member of Journey Church. And that just kind of weighed on me. Why would I, So I felt like that's one of those things that often happens. We signal or we call out, someone's color that's different than us, but we never call out our own color,
right?
So to speak. We always, we never talk about, hey, this was a great book by a white guy.
Yes, I'm with you.
But hey, it's a brilliant black guy.
Yes.
And that's some of the implicit biases or training that we have, not necessarily that we were taught, but we catch it. We caught it from the environments that we were raised in. And just being able to deal with that, being able to call that out, I think that's
progress.
That's progress, right?
That's progress. Like you said before, more is caught than is taught.
Yeah.
Right. And that's always been true. And I think it's just like what you just said. You have no ill intentions about saying that, but it's the same thing when you really look at it on an American level. Most that are brown and black or don't know your full heritage all the way back. So everything that we've learned here in the United States of America is about America. We don't have a lot of traditions from an Italian background or some other European countries that we practice. Everything that we practice mostly was learned here in the United States from the stripping of the heritage. So it's like, why am I just not American, at times? And then there's the conversation of, well, you want to make sure you're keeping some of your black heritage or your African heritage. I don't know anything. I don't practice any African traditions. I have respect for it, and I had to learn about it because obviously I got called African American so much that I made sure I learned about it, right? So I learned a lot. Beautiful people, right? But I grew up here, United States of America, and I'm American. I mean, family steel mill, coal miners, right? Got a lot, you get the idea. So again, it's just really educating people a lot about that and just bringing conscious to it. And when you say that sometimes, it's almost like you're saying in aspects that, like you said, they're different. They're the same but indifferent. You don't intend it to be that way, right? But I'm just a Journey Christian member here of that's it, right? Trying to serve and follow God's path. It's just that simple,
One of the things that this past week's message brought up, and you and I had a conversation about, and I think it's important just to, this might be a little uncomfortable with some folks, is about the Confederate flag and the meaning of the Confederate flag. Rick Atchley this past week, my pastor friend from Texas, told a story about a guy who, grew up in a racist environment, had a Confederate flag on the wall, had a T-shirt. If you haven't seen the message, watch the message. And just talking about, now as a Christian, there's some things I can't say anymore. There's some things I can't do anymore. And there's some things I'm not going to wear anymore. And just as a person of color, even though a white Southerner might see the Confederate flag as a symbol of the South and Southern culture, that's not the history. That's not the heritage of what that flag stood for. And how, as a black man, a person of color, how do you see that?
Yeah, it's I see it as a symbol of oppression.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's like,
that's what it was intended to be.
I try to look at it every single way, even though I clearly understand that there are good people who use this and say to themselves that They truly believe that, whatever reason that they were raised, that it's just about the Southern heritage and paying homage to it, right? And I totally understand why we still should talk about the Confederate flag, and I think it should be in a history book, right? But
we are talking about history, but the Confederate flag isn't just in history; it's still going on today. And you actually had an experience here at Journey regarding the Confederate flag. Can you share a little bit about that?
Yeah, it was one day a few years back, and one of the members had a bandana on, and it was actually a greeter. And so I'm looking, and I'm like, all right, I've seen it, and I just
To clarify, what kind of bandana was it?
It was Confederate flag.
So a Confederate flag banner being greeted at the front door.
Yeah, at the front door. Yeah, and of course this is after I'm just gloating about the church and just how beautiful we are, and we're all encompassing and all inclusive, and but
everybody's welcome.
Everybody's welcome.
Right,
Nobody's perfect, right? Exactly. So and it's kind of like and I had to be like, that's not what's reflective of this church, right? But again, because I became a steward of history and I learned these certain things, I know sometimes it's just done out of ignorance. Yeah. Sometimes it's done intentionally, although they won't admit it, right? Yeah. He or she won't admit it. And so it was tough. And I had I think it was my father that was with me that seen it, and he kind of was like, like, what are you doing here, And so he came in, and my father attends every once in a while, so we got past it, is the point. But there's so many people that I know growing up, coming from Israel, that would never step foot into this building just because of that, right?
There's a great principle in the book of Acts where they're having this big council about do Gentiles have to become Jews first, and do they have to go through Jewish protocols before they can be Christians? And James, the leader of the Jerusalem church at the time, made this great statement. He said, let's not make it difficult for people who are turning to God. And sometimes when we do things like that, whether we're aware of what that symbol represents or not, we're making it difficult to reach people. Yes. And our goal, we really mean that. Everybody is welcome. People from all races, all ethnic backgrounds. That's at the heart of who we want Journey to be. And when you have an experience like that, whatever was meant by the person that wore that, it makes it difficult to reach people who look like you.
Absolutely.
And imagine one of the things about Cary that we love is that you love inviting people. And he's invited a ton of friends and family. And now, and you all know, I mean, when you finally invite that friend and they say yes, you hope it's the perfect service. And now what's going on in your head is, okay, I hope nobody's going to be accidentally or purposefully racist to my friend.
Right.
And the extra weight of inviting somebody to church where a greeter is wearing that, and it reminds me of something that Paul shares in 1 Corinthians. One of the things that in America that we have that I love is we have the freedom. We have the freedom to do whatever we want. But when we became Christians, we laid that freedom aside. Absolutely. That's what the word lordship is about, is that our freedom is under the lordship of Christ. And that's what Paul's talking here, and this is 1 Corinthians 10:23. It says, I have the right to do anything, you say, but not everything is beneficial. I have the right to do anything, but not everything is constructive. Because as I'm hearing this story, I could hear somebody say, oh no, I can wear whatever I want, it's a free country, and they're 100% right. But as a believer, not everything is beneficial. Yeah.
That's right.
Not everything is constructive. Our calling is to live under the lordship of Christ, and one of the biggest mandates is unity.
Amen.
And I love what you said. I thought this was so good, Pastor John, what you said this week, and it said, the mission of the church is not racial reconciliation. That's not the mission of the church. Right. But the mission of the church mandates racial reconciliation. And I thought that was a great, great line to be able to illustrate that we are free to do whatever we want.
Absolutely.
But under the lordship of Christ, we're called to a different standard.
Absolutely. And that's a perfect point that you make. When I made that church change, the scriptures I would remember, Proverbs 27:12, the prudent see danger and seek refuge, but the simple keep going and suffer for it. And I said, if I continue to go here, I see the danger of my kids living in a diverse community, but then being segregated on Sunday, you know, and I can see it happening. And then how it would be really unwise for me for God to open up my eyes and to tell me what my purpose is and then not fulfill it. And then so when I think about when I fast forward to the day we made that decision to become a part of the Journey family, and then, you know, when you're here first, we weren't fully, you know, we weren't engaged, you know, the same way, right? And then I realized I got small children here. The call came to serve in the children's community, and I'm just like, you know, I'm not sure, you know, I literally had a slight little hesitation because it's like, hey, there's no diversity in here. They sure that they want somebody like me leading their children. But, you know, I only think I thought about it just for a quick second because I'm like, hey, I already coach here. I'm already, you know, involved. I grew up in these diverse communities. I went to these diverse schools. I was like, I have, you know, I think I know how to connect here, you know, but you're still a little nervous. So I had a perfect mentor, Miss Paula, you know, and
Paula Hafer.
Miss Paula, yeah,
She's a rock star.
yeah, she trained me up, and you know, and I think in 2 or 3 weeks she'll probably tell you. She told me, she said, "You're good. You just need to go on you need to go on your own. Get out the door, right?" And then, like I said, that's the gift that keeps on giving. And then, as we talked about when we coaching in the community over the many years, people trusting me, even yourself, even you guys, and Dino and Tammy, just the many names I can say over the years, and that really encouraged me to grow and supported the leadership. It's just really been a beautiful thing. I never thought we were at today. You know.
Now speak as a volunteer, and as someone out there, because one of the keys and one of the things we want to do is we talk about resuming on-site worship again. One of the keys that we want to be able to do is we want to offer children's ministry. We don't want to come back this time without having children's ministry. So we're doing everything we can to learn, to understand from schools, from other churches that are already meeting. But Cary, you're one of our rock star volunteers. Talk to somebody out there about why it's important to invest in our kids.
Yeah, you know, like I was telling these gentlemen, I've been absolutely blessed by it. You're there thinking, what can I really teach them? But you learn a lot from everyone that you meet, even the smallest children. The children, even once, they caught me a couple of times in the classroom where I didn't fully study the lesson before I came in. Yeah.
I didn't think that really happened.
Yeah, they put me on the spot, right? And I had to go get the Bible, and I had to be like, hold on a second, you know, and we had to go through it. And so it was just like, you know, it was a beautiful moment because, like you said, they'll keep you honest to it. But I think the support structure that's in place is what people really know as a volunteer. You're thinking that you can't do it. There's so much support. It is so easy just to convert, you know what I mean? There's plenty of places to serve here. We all have been purpose driven. We all had a purpose in life. And this church is here, I really think, to help you kind of hone in and foster that and help you build that. And it might not be in the children's ministry. It could be some other places, but get in there and find out. I mean, it's been the gift that keeps on giving for me. I think I was telling these gentlemen here, one day it came to a head, Dustin knows, we changed up the way that we picked the children up. We moved it from going down the hallway to Adventureland Theater. And so happened to be we were short on volunteers. That never happens, right? Dustin, right? So, we were short on volunteers. So Tammy and Master, they give me the microphone, and they're asking me to call the children's names as it comes through. And I'm calling the names, and then Dustin, he walks, he's looking like, what's happening? Like, we got a hallway full of people out here.
It's backed up.
It's backed up. And
the mayor of Journey Kids is talking to every family there is. But because you've had an impact for years on so many families that every family is stopping to talk to you because you've coached them in sports.
Absolutely. That's right.
Now you're in Journey Kids, and I'm thinking, man, we got another service. Right. We got to get this mayor out of here.
Right. So that's basically what happened. What Dustin's saying is that it's like almost every other kid or mother, father, the grandmother, I just knew them all. And I not just knowing them just to see them, but we've had a connection. I coached you football, basketball, soccer, in the classroom or just in this hallway. And it was that day to me where God's like, Cary, that was what he showed me, you know, and I never ever would have known that this is the benefit that I would receive just from trusting and following God and just wanting to be, a good steward of all the gifts that He's given me.
So think about that. It's a good way to kind of wrap it up. 2005, you first showed up here, 15 years ago.
Yes.
And over that 15-year period of time, you saw some things that made you probably say, I wonder what that's about. Obviously, you saw some barriers that you had to overcome, and yet you did. You kept coming, kept investing here. And now just such an important part of not only our children's ministry, but our ministry. And Cary, so grateful for you, so grateful for your family, beautiful wife, Diane, kids, and just the influence that you're having, a journey in our community. Just really grateful that you're loving the journey.
Absolutely.
With us. And as I told you when we met in June, after that a lunch we had several weeks ago, I said, Cary, you give me a lot of hope. And you really do. You give me a lot of hope for the conversations that we're having on the weekends, for the conversations that we're having right now, and for the impact that these conversations will have as they move forward into the future. We've come a long way.
Absolutely.
There's a lot of progress that we still need to make, but we've come a long way, and we're committed to moving forward as a multicultural, multi-ethnic church. Because here's what we're going to talk about this weekend. One of the things that I read for Pizza Hut is they needed to make a change in their marketing because they were not doing well in the delivery business. And the CEO decided, here's going to be our new marketing slogan. Easy beats better. Easy beats better. And I would say 80 to 90% of all churches in America are mono-ethnic, meaning there's only one ethnic group, in 80 to 90%, because it's easier. But I got to tell you, the multi-ethnic church, the multicultural church is better.
Absolutely.
Amen.
It's messier. Just like the pizza. When I started eating pizza, I just had cheese pizza, and then I started putting a little pepperoni on there, a little onion on there, a little sausage on there.
Right.
Every now and then some banana peppers.
Right.
You know? It's messier, but it's better.
It's better.
It's better. And the multi-ethnic church sometimes has hard conversations, uncomfortable conversations, sometimes messy conversations, but it's better.
It's better, and I think that one thing that I didn't get a chance to tell you, but I think what really made me reach out and text you was when you were leading from the front, right? Even you knew that it wouldn't be popular to have some of these discussions, and but it's like, hey, I'm with you. I see you. You know, like in the movie Avatar when they had that scene, they were like, I see you, right? Like I clearly see you and everyone that are members of my church, right? And I want to know more about you. So the way I tell you, I said, hey, God I'm no fortune teller, I'm no prophet, but where I seen where Journey started, and such as even folks yourself, Dustin, you encouraged me to go into leadership, and where I see us going, it's a beautiful thing. Amen. It's a beautiful thing. And I just want to encourage all those, my story is not just unique either, right? There's so seek out some of these people that I told you that are some of my closest friends that I've been here. They are phenomenal people, professionals.
We know a lot of them.
And they will be willing to have these conversations. And I'm saying that to our entire Journey family.
Yes.
Because
Amen.
Even the last thing here you tell me, I love Journey so much, I believe in Journey so much that I changed the talk for my children. The talk you talked about, I call my children the Talk 2.0. Because the one thing that's painful about the talk, when you have it, is you're almost trying to tell your children that they're not equal. When you got to give them these certain protocols. My daughter just started driving. I'm teaching my daughter and my two nieces simultaneously, so pray for me. Yeah, and but I modified their talk, not only because of the strong network of friends that I have, what I told you with the James affairs, it's because of the Journey family. And because my kids feel like they're equal. My kids think that they can do anything, and this church has had a whole lot to do with that, you know. And I know that if the time comes or the situation was to come, that Journey and this whole community's got my back. Amen. The other friends are always going to be there, but man, we're so more powerful together. Amen. God is good.
Amen. One of the things that you mentioned about a church looking like your community, one of the things that I always say and try to do, I want the church to reflect a local high school cafeteria. So when you think of the local high school cafeteria, that is the indication of the community that you're in. And so you said you started serving even though you weren't sure if we wanted somebody like you. And I just want to clarify, we're trying to reach all kinds of people, which means we need all kinds of leaders. And if you're sitting there wondering, I don't know if they want me, could use me, the answer is yes. We want people that have a heart for Jesus and want to help love kids, help in any area. And so if you are saying, hey, I want to join Journey Kids, you go ahead and email us at kids@journeychristian.com. We'd love to be able to help connect the dots for you, and we'll go from there. But I just want to say I have kids in the ministry, and so thank you for what you do. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being willing to lead and have these conversations. And so we're grateful for you, grateful for your leadership. And I'm grateful that Journey got to hear your heart because it's so good. And so this is great. Thank you, Pastor John.
Cary, thanks again. And thank you for joining us on episode number 2. Apparently it was more than my wife and your wife that watched.
I got some cousins.
Okay, good. So we had a few more people join us last week, so that's good. We're so glad that you joined us for this week's After the Message talk. Look forward to sharing the message with you this week. Why talk about race? Because we preach the cross of Jesus, and that's what we're going to talk about this week, and we're excited about that. And don't forget, we're going to have an outdoor worship night. We got an outdoor worship night August the 23rd at our Apopka campus only, but we're excited about that. We think that's an important step to coming back on site on a more regular basis. So join us August 23rd here at our Apopka campus. Thanks, Journey. Have a great week.